So who of you has heard of Hirse, millet? Wow! See, there's lots of Austrians here because that doesn't happen in the US, and that's why we have the Millet Project. And I'll tell you a little bit about the Millet Project and how I got to do it. Currently, this is like my first, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going back. So I'm currently at the Energy Biosciences Institute at UC Berkeley. I'm a postdoc there, and I'll tell you about millet, how I got to UC Berkeley, and this is millet. This is 3 types of millet, and I'll tell you more about that there's not only one type of millet too. But first, where am I from? I am from Graz, a really, really beautiful city in Austria. Most of you will probably know it. And I studied technical chemistry at Graz University of Technology and did my PhD in biotechnology there as well. And I worked with atomic force microscopy on cellulose degradation. So why did I do that? Because it's really interesting for the biofuels business. We're going to break down cellulose. And that's also what eventually got me to Berkeley, to the Energy Biosciences Institute, because they wanted to find out more about how cellulose is being degraded to glucose too. And that's where I helped them until the big oil crisis came, but that's a totally different topic. I'm not going to talk about my research on cellulose degradation today. I'm going to talk about millet. On the left side, by the way, that's a cellulose degrading fungus, and that's millet. Both are edible, by the way. I think millet is slightly more tasty.
Have you tried both?
Yes, I have. Oh yeah, you know, as a scientist, really. So I want to ask you, what do you think is the most eaten grain worldwide, or what are the most eaten grains? What can you think of? What's the first thing?
Rice.
Wheat, rice, corn. I heard wheat, rice, and corn. Yeah, you're right. You're totally right. That's it. So that's what we started cultivating. That's what we're eating. And of course, we're becoming more and more people. We're getting towards more. Let's put it that way. We're getting towards more people and less diversity in what we eat and what we farm. So it actually makes up 89% of the worldwide production. And there are a lot of problems associated with it. For example, that monoculture farming leads to a lack of diversity in the nutrients we have, because if we cultivate the same things over and over again, these plants take up the same things from the soils. We're depleting our soils, and that also means that we are getting less nutrients. And also, since we're moving towards single types of plants, so we're having like one major type of corn, we're having one major type of wheat, we're having one major type of rice, where there's plenty of other varieties out there. So that's how we're getting to really having a lack of nutrients. And also, for example, rice has the problem, it accumulates heavy metals. So if you're eating rice, really think of that. There are nations that depend heavily on rice, such as China. They also have a lot of pollution. So if you eat all these heavy metals, might not be that healthy. If you vary your diet and you have different plants that have different nutrients and maybe also different toxic substances, as Paracelsus said, die Dosis macht das Gift, you might have a better chance of getting out here alive. Wait, maybe that's wrong. But anyway, diversity in our farms leads to more diversity in our diets. That's why we are here for. And we just started off with taking millet because that was something that my co-founder of the project, Amrita, and I both knew from our respective home countries. I'm from Austria, she's from India. We both grew up eating millet. So why is millet great? Millet has a really good nutritional profile. So if we compare it, and I'm sorry, this is kind of hard to see, that is rice, this is wheat, this is corn, and this is millet. So compared to these other grains, we have a comparably low carbohydrate content, which for people who want to eat grains, but really should watch their carbohydrate intake, might be beneficial. Also, millets have a really good protein profile and a lot of fiber and also trace elements such as iron, calcium, and other elements that are really high in millet. So we really hope to make it the next super grain. And as I said before, there's not only one type of millet, Hirse. We just know the one gourd Hirse, that's proso millet. So that's the one that is mainly eaten in Europe and also in the US if they eat it at all. But if you can find it somewhere, it's always proso millet, unless you're going to that Indian specialty store where you might find other types of millet. But there are other types. There's finger millet, a beautiful millet that is grown mostly in Africa and also in Nepal and India. There's teff, which some of you might know from Ethiopian restaurants if you've ever eaten injera there. Their bread is made from teff, which is actually the grain with the smallest seeds, and it looks beautiful. It's grown mainly in Ethiopia, that's where it is from. And the problem there is, for example, that the teff that they use in the US currently often is imported from Ethiopia. And so, since you know, Ethiopia often has problems with hunger, with famine, and that's really not a good thing to do. So we want to encourage farmers here to locally grow teff and sell it to the local Ethiopian restaurants. Also, teff is becoming kind of a super grain right now. There was an article in the New York Times, so that might be something to watch out, and we just want to spread the words to farmers that they start really working with that. And there's Japanese millet. I'm very proud of this picture, and I got that ladybug in there. It's on our millet field. It's a beautiful millet. Unfortunately, it's really hard to hull, so that's why it's not eaten that widely. And there's foxtail or German millet, also a beautiful and very tasty type of millet. Pearl millet, which is mainly grown in Africa and seems to be the most drought-resistant one. And there are some more that are not on there. But millet really is just a term for several small-seeded grasses that are grown around the world. And they have been grown for 10,000 years. So it's a true ancient grain. So what do we want to do at the Millet Project? We want to connect farmers, consumers, and also the food producers. First of all, you need to generate a market so that the farmers have someone to grow for, right? And we also need food producers to incorporate millet into their products. And we're lucky that this already happens, and we kind of try to give that more momentum. The problem is that currently there's no millet really grown in California, and we think California is the best place to do that, and I will talk to you about that a little bit later. But our idea here is, so first, we need to establish a local millet supply so that the customers have some local millet to buy, and especially here in the Bay Area, people want to buy locally. They are very aware of where their food comes from. There are a lot of foodies here. There's really a culture of that here. So we hope that here is really a good place to do that. And then, of course, the food manufacturers. We start mainly with local food manufacturers, bakeries, also butcher shops, and cereal bar producers, everyone, like people who mill their own grain. All these are people that we would like to educate about millet and the uses of millet. So I talked to you about why millet is great for California. This is what happens in California. We grow a lot of rice in standing water. You might have heard about California actually having a drought problem. So when I drive up through the valley, down through the valley, or up to Chico, I-5, I see all these rice farms. I'm like, wow, it's like 105 degrees out, the sun is shining, and you're using all that water and telling me to shower for a short amount of time every day, and that helps. So if they would grow millet, you know, what difference would that make? So that was kind of one of the ideas that I had. So what we're doing now is, and we're in our second year now, we're having farmers that collaborate with us and try out to grow millet in California in different areas. So we have all these different microclimates, closer to the coast, more central where we have more heat, kind of in a different area where we have a very borate-rich, very sour soil, and also a drought because actually all the water from Healdsburg goes down to Napa Valley for the wineries. That's like historic water loss. Also up in Ukiah and in Willits, and we have some new collaborators in Fresno down here, and another one in Upper Lake around here, and one in Santa Cruz, and there are more and more farmers willing and wanting to collaborate with us, which is fantastic. What we do is we connect them with other farmers, we connect them with bakers, millers, and so on who want to buy their millet. And we also connect them to farmers markets, we connect them to people who know how to grow millet. So we're kind of like Open-Austria, we're open millet. that's just a short overview about some of our collaborators. So not only farmers, but also, for example, Berkeley Open Source Food, who do a wheat project. They want to see how much wheat can we generate, edible wheats can we generate on a farm. There's a lot of wheats, and they are like, hey, you can eat this, you could sell it, you could make a salad out of this. So they try to educate people about the wheats that they throw out to eat them, and we collaborated with them to see how much more revenue can you generate if you sell the wheat generated on a field. Then we have a scientific part where we study what makes millet so drought tolerant. A lot of it is the microbes that live on the roots of the plants. And that's with Devin Coleman-Durr from the PGEC, which is also located in the East Bay and connected to UC Berkeley. Peggy Lemoux from the CLEAR project, which is a project trying to educate the community about science in general. They help us a lot with our public outreach. And here you can see actually one of our farmers at the UC Giltride Community Farm, where we have our little test plot where I actually farmed some millet. So these people are running a community farm where people can learn to grow their own food. We also do some product development. Millet patties, I grew up eating them as Hirseläppchen, eating just the patties, not in a burger, but for the American market, you know, you need to adapt. So that's a millet burger. It's really tasty. This is Breinwurst. Who knows Breinwurst? Yay, some hands up. So this is locally made Berkeley Breinwurst. We got the Berkeley butcher shop to make Breinwurst with our millet, which was a fun experiment. And this is our first version of a millet cereal bar. So we're doing product development. We're trying to make a startup out of that. So if there is anybody interested in a food startup, we really want to get one of our products out there. We're currently we did some surveys on these, how people like it, and are in the middle of getting more experience on how to do that. So that was our millet exhibit last year and this year. So that's part of our public outreach on our farm at the UC Giltride in Berkeley, where we farm ourselves. So we bring people in, happy faces. They can get their own millet, touch it, and take it with them home. They can walk through our field where we have several types of millets. We have information there. We have scientists there. We have farmers there. We also have millet beer. Somebody brewed millet beer for us, and it was really tasty. We have food there, the Millet Patties, cereal bars, several sponsors that supported our project. So it was pretty amazing. And the best thing that happened was one of the bakers saying to a farmer who was thinking about maybe growing millet, he's like, if you grow California millet for me, organic, I will pay premium prices for that. And we're like, that's what we want to hear. So very good way to connect people and also to reach out to the public. Yeah, so that's it from the Millet Project, and some more millet here, of course. And I would just want to acknowledge, because of course this wouldn't be possible without an amazing team. Amrita, who is, as I said, actually the Millet Project is her brainchild, and we founded it together and got the first seed funding from the Berkeley Food Institute for it in 2015. And Peggy and Sarah and all these are team members of us who put a lot of their volunteer work into this project. And yeah, thank you for your attention.